Hi, this is Professor Joseph Alexander Brown. I'm a PhD in computer science. I'm an ISW teacher trainer, and I'm also a professor at Annapolis University inside of the computer science department. So, I want to talk tonight about one of the issues that is brought up inside of the Chronicle of Higher Education. They posted another one of their pieces about how when we're online and teaching, we should look professional and look, fancy and shouldn't have, people interrupting us or have children running in the background and dogs running through or life happening inside of a place. Now, there are some halfway decent arguments for why this should be the case. I mean, it has to do with attention of the student, it has to do with what called building a learning environment, and this is an important piece of this. But I think what the Chronicle of Higher Education misses is the very simple fact of we're not doing this and working from home and building these types of online educational systems because that's what we're aiming to do. It's not as if we have gone into this business of providing content and that we are YouTubers where we're creating this content for that platform. This is, we're dealing with a devastating international pandemic and hoping that we can somehow put together these pieces inside of it. Now, there might be the argument that, okay, we've done the containment. Like last semester, we were able to get through it, and here we're planning for this semester. And yeah, there's a bit of good argument for this. However, certain things are not going to change just by the fact of we had some extra time in terms of this. A lot of universities haven't put the support networks that are actually necessary in place in order to have a home studio and to have that type of equipment. A lot of this equipment is quite expensive. I just recently had to replace my laptop, and that was an investment on my part that's not being done by my employer, that's done by me. I have a podcasting microphone here, and so that's why my voice actually sounds rather decent. But that was a personal purchase that I made in order to do videos. Uh, Inside of this room here. This is my home office area inside of it. I am lucky enough to have a home office area. Some people don't. Some people need to share that space and move through it. And we have to remember that a lot of our frontline teaching is not just done by professors who make the quote unquote big bucks, but also by teaching assistants, adjuncts, and other groups that are worried about the fact that they might not have enough in order to pay for rent in their shared apartments, especially in certain areas like in the United States, where an adjunct is a term appointment where you don't even know if you're going to have a job next semester. So if you want me to build my own recording studio on top of that without any support, then how is that going to happen? Where is that resources? Where is that money coming from? So when we have, for example, universities, and the major reason why we have such buildings and do this type of teaching is that we have a learning space that we can somehow control, that we can create the systems that we want to have in place. So I think a lot of these articles, they're talking about the professionalism, and that really miss the point of what the average actual teaching professor needs to do. They're incredibly short-sighted. They don't take into account the realities of the situation. And I think beyond that, it really changes what the teaching profession is. Because teaching is not about having a classroom. It's not about having the right chalkboard. It's not having about the smart screen. It's about the connection between the student and the teacher and the students between each other and encouraging the learning process. That can be done in any room. That can be done anywhere. And so what happens when we say, oh, well, you're only a professional teacher if, and then there's a whole bunch of boxes, it really is short sighted as to how the teaching process really works and what is important in it. And the key to that is if the student is learning, it shouldn't matter what environment that's in. And I think that this also reduces that empathy. that we have towards our students, because our students are right now not in the most professional of settings where they don't have the resources that they could want. And so it's very dangerous for us to portray ourselves as somehow mystically able to pull an entire recording studio out and set it up, even over the course of a couple of semesters. I think it's also wrong because we don't look at what is the human realities of this situation. Some people are not going to be able to get childcare during this pandemic. So there's going to be a baby crying in the background. You have to remember, we didn't sign up to these positions to work from our houses. We didn't come in thinking that this was the possibility. And so we didn't design our houses or design our living arrangements around our jobs. Our jobs have now invaded our personal space. You're guests in our home when you're in our classrooms now. Our classrooms are our homes. We've moved back to that. So what happens within a home? There's going to be people doing construction on the floor above me if I'm inside of an apartment, and I can't change that fact. There's going to be, a crying child. There's going to be an animal or a pet. Or there's going to be a wife interrupting you for a certain thing. That's the nature that we are moving inside of this. And that's the nature of our students. Our students are living with roommates. Our students are living with parents where they're going to be interrupted. Our students are going through all of this. So to portray and betray the fact that we're somehow different and able to do this in a professional manner. The truism of professionalism is this. You show up, you do your job as effectively, honorably, and honestly as you can do it. That's all it is. Whether you wear a suit, whether you've got stuff in the background, you know what? I work in a creative field. So, there is a certain amount of leeway when you're doing games and stuff like this. But I think it's also, there's personality that we have as instructors and as professors. And this stodginess under the guise of professionalism doesn't help anyone. I would rather like the fact that my students know that I enjoy hockey games and that I am a human being, or that, I like to play video games and here's the video games I like to play, or that I've got a group of various bears up in the corner here. It's characterization and characterful. And it's me as a human being. And if I have to put aside myself as a human being in order to be a professional, well, I don't understand what a professional is. So I think a lot of these postings right now by the Chronicle of Higher Education and other, I would say, classist almost publications where they believe that I can, open up my third home and put up a recording studio inside of it in order to maintain my professionalism, given the amount of paychecks that, a TA makes or an adjunct makes, are just entirely short-sighted, dangerous publications. And it really takes away from what is the joy and the reality of teaching. So if you're a instructor or a professor, then all I would say is don't listen to that. Listen to what your students have to say about it. How do they want to be taught? What does the learner think of the environment? How do you deal with that? And also recognize that your students are going through these same sorts of challenges. And on the other side, students, what's your thoughts on this? Do I have to always be inside of a suit in order to teach you? Do you care about the fact that I'm wearing a characterful t-shirt inside of my games development class? If I go off on, a story tangent, if there's an interruption, does that really damage the fact of what my professionalism is or my abilities are? Or is that just life? And you'd like it if I respected the fact that you might have interruptions in yours? Well, that is basically my thoughts on this. Leave a comment and I'll try to get back to it. And otherwise, stay safe, wash your hands, like, share, and subscribe. Hamna Islam and I have a new book. It's called Affordance Theory in Game Design, a guide towards understanding players, and it's available from Morgan and Claypool. Games, whether educational or recreational, are meant to be fun. But how do we ensure that the game delivers its intent? Well, the answer to that question is playtesting. Our book goes through various playtesting strategies in order for you to test your games against players and get authentic feedback using the ideas of affordance theory. You can check it out at the link in the description of this video.